Hello, everyone. I apologize I couldn't be in class today. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew how to do all these problems. So here's a quick solutions setup for this. So for the first part of the homework, you had to know whether you should use law of sines or cosine. And remember, the only time we can use law of sines is if we know the angle opposite a side we know. Okay, so looking at the first one, if I had a triangle where I knew side, 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 so I know side, 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 it is not possible to use law of sines here. So the only thing you could use is law of cosines. Okay. For number two, angle, side, angle. So if I draw a triangle, I have angle, a side, and an angle. Okay. Can I use law of cosines here? And the answer is no. But since I could find this third angle and I know the side opposite, here I can use law of sines. I have side, side angle, right? So side, side angle. Here I know this angle, I know the side opposite, so I would use law of sines. Side angle side, so side angle and then side, right? So this would be law of cosines because I don't know the side opposite this angle. And angle angle side would be law of sines, okay? Because you'd be able to find the third angle. Now in class, we solve for these triangles using law of cosines. So always start with a diagram. I'm going to label this vertices A, B, and C. And then they tell us little a is 38, little b is 31, little c is, this is 35, and little b was 30. So right away, I'm going to look for the largest angle first, which is going to be angle A. All right. Now, if I'm looking for A, remember, A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times the cosine of angle A. So right away, I plug everything I know in. So 38 squared is equal to 31 squared plus 35 squared minus 2 times 31 times 35 times the cosine of A. Now, if you remember, we said earlier, we're going to subtract the 31 squared, we're going to subtract the 35 squared, and that would leave us with negative 742 is equal to negative 2170 times the cosine of angle A. Now, to get rid of the negative 2170, I'm going to go ahead and divide. I get cosine of angle A is equal to 0.34. But how do I get rid of the cosine? I take the inverse cosine of 0.34, and that would give me approximately 70 degrees. Okay, I'm going to use something very similar, right, to find C. So now if I'm looking for C, I'm going to use C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times the cosine of angle C, right? So I plug everything in here. 35 squared equals 38 squared plus 31 squared minus 2 times 38 times 31 times the cosine of angle C. So again, same thing. We're going to subtract the 38 squared. We're going to subtract the 31 squared. And when we do that, we end up getting so when you do that, you end up getting negative 1180 equals negative 2356 times the cosine of angle C. And when I divide by negative 2356, you end up getting the cosine of angle C is equal to 0.5. So C is equal to the inverse cosine of 0.5, which is 60 degrees. Now, once I know angle A is 70 degrees and I know angle C is 60 degrees, what do all three angles in a triangle have to add up to? 180, so that's going to be 50 degrees. Okay, number 7, if I draw this triangle out, I have A, I have B, I have C. C is 48 degrees, right? Little a is 17, little b is 20. So let's go ahead and find AB first, okay, which is little c. Remember, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of angle C. So in this case, we don't know c squared, but I know a is 17 squared plus b is 20 squared minus 2 times 17 times 20 times the cosine of 48 degrees, because that's the measure of angle C. So C squared ends up equaling 233.99. And now how do we solve for C? I go ahead and I take the square root of that. And that would give me C is about 15.3 units long. Okay? So now I want to go and find one of the other angles. And again, I always want to look for the biggest angle next. So I'm going to find angle B. So to find angle B, B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times the cosine of angle B. So B is 20, so 20 squared equals 17 squared plus, we just found C is 15.3 squared minus 2 times 17 times 15.3 times the cosine of angle B. So let's go ahead and subtract the 17 squared, subtract the 15.3 squared, and right away, if we do 20 squared minus 17 squared minus 15.3 squared, you get about negative 123.09 equals, when you multiply the other side, negative 2 times 17 times 15.3, you end up with negative 520.2 times the cosine of B. And when you divide, we're going to get B is the inverse cosine of, when we divide, you should get 0.237. And the inverse cosine of 0.237 is approximately 76 degrees. So once we know B is 76 degrees, right? Now to find angle A, we can do 180 minus 48 minus 76, which would give you 56 degrees. Okay, now if you look at your guided notes, you'll see 8 is very similar to 7, 9 is very similar to 6, 10 is very similar to 6, and number 11 is very similar. So now number 12 with the law of cosines, okay, or sorry, the law of sines. So when I go here, mark my diagram, I have A, I have B, I have C. So A is 72 degrees, B is 44 degrees, and little b is 14. Right away to find angle C, we're going to do 180 minus 72 minus 44, which would give you 64 degrees. Now I can use the law of sines here. So I set it up, sine of 72 over, I don't know little a, equals the sine of 44 degrees over 14, and then that equals the sine of 64 degrees over, we just found, oh, we don't have little c. So now I'm going to use these two ratios to find a. So when I cross multiply here, I'm going to get a times the sine of 44 is equal to, cross multiply here, and that's going to be 14 sine 72. So right away, a is equal to 14 sine 72 over the sine of 44. If you go to your calculator, you would get a is approximately 19.2. The one thing some people are getting messed up with, though, you have to know, cross multiply this way, and then we cross multiply this way. Okay, now for the next one, we're going to use these two ratios. So when I cross multiply, I would get c times the sine of 44 equals 14 times the sine of 64. So c is equal to 14 sine 64 all over sine of 44, and that would give you approximately 18.1. All right, and that would be the sine lengths. This should be enough examples to help you get through it. Remember, all the detailed solutions are on Canvas, and since I am not there today, I'm going to allow a note card without any examples on it. Okay, enjoy your day.